Finishing up some watering this morning. I know it seems crazy that they were watering already, but I saw a bunch of wilting on these plots yesterday. The dew point was really low, and because of my sandier soil here, this stuff does not take too long to dry out, and it's been a very dry spring so far. So just finishing up some watering this morning. Just because there's a certain date on the calendar doesn't necessarily mean the grass cares about that. And somehow today I've hit the jackpot, because there's about maybe 5 days that I can count in a year here where the wind is not super crazy, especially out now where we live. But today it's almost dead calm right now, or about as calm as it gets. So got some work to do on the front yard. I'm excited to get working on that again and show you a few things and updates up there. Also, I wanted to give you a quick update here though. Although this was pretty washed out, you can see down the middle here, there's quite a bit of grass that's come in. So I have to make a decision to see what I'm going to do with this as it starts to mature. I may just need to redo it and flatten it all out and put some actual erosion control in here and a little trench down the middle to get some water flowing where it needs to go. But for now, I am surprised I got as much grass as I did there, and it hasn't been watered now in quite some time. So hopefully we get some rain soon. Up here in the front yard, I think it's been maybe 4 or 5 days since that last update that I showed you, and what a difference some decent weather, some more sunshine, and continuing to get some water on this makes for this front yard. It has grown a lot in the last 4 or 5 days, and I'm at that point now today where I think I need to remove these blankets before they start to get really tangled up with that new grass. There's a very fine line here that I find where you want to make sure that you have enough cover over it in case there's any seed there yet that hasn't really germinated. But by the time I see some of these plants getting 2.5 inches tall, even some of them, then I know that I have to do something with that blanket. Otherwise, it's going to start to get tangled in this. And as you remove it, these are still very delicate plants here at this stage, and so you can start to get some of them torn out, and that's not what you want. It's not something that I found that it rips out all the plants or anything by any means, but you just want to be delicate with it if you can. So I'm not going to be able to tell until I get the blankets off. We're going to see how thick this is. I have a feeling that it's going to be fairly sparse in a few places. We did have that pretty intense rainfall 3-4 days into it, and some of it probably likely moved around underneath the blankets, but we're going to find out here shortly. And right here you can see I purposely went a little farther out with the seed than the blankets were going to be. And today I think what I'm going to do with these blankets is I'm probably going to overseed this right here. Yesterday I brought my drag through here with the four-wheeler, just broke this soil up a little bit more. Then I think I'm going to take these blankets and move them over to here and just reuse them. We'll see if that's going to work. Sometimes they don't come up that well and sometimes they do, but we're going to find out. I'm just going to continue with the rye out here. You'll see that there's a cover crop. This is actually cereal rye, so it's not a turf grass, but it is a cover crop that I put in. That I've been cutting now and mowed it once, which is a very dirty job, as you can probably tell. I'd really love to come out here and spray this out right now, but honestly, it might just work to leave it here since it's very sparse anyway. And then as soon as the other grass starts coming in and I start mowing it, this should die off. However far we get out with the blankets right here is probably where I'm going to stop with the ryegrass. And then past this is our septic field over here where our laterals are at. And so there's some rough grasses and weird stuff in here. There is some of that cover crop. This is more like a pasture grass right in here, and so that long term I would like to do a spray on that before I put in my final turf grass here, and I don't know exactly which type that's going to be. I think I'll just put in some annual rye in this section and let it just cover the ground. If I had some more of this cereal rye on hand, I probably would just put that in, but I do have some annual rye. And then we'll just let this cover the ground here, keep it from eroding away in storms and all that. This is what that cereal rye is looking like when you leave it all out in an open area. And it will get taller. It'll probably get to, last year I'd say it was 3-4 feet tall or so by the time it got to full height. And then later on in the summer I mowed it down, and I'm just trying to kind of clean out this field before we end up going to turf eventually. It was a former farm field and there's lots of stuff in the soil here. I know it's a lot more work to do all this as far as using a spreader like this, but I just like to be able to see the seed going down and those pull behind spreaders until I get used to it more. I feel like this just works better for me, so I'd rather walk the steps and make sure I get good even coverage. And it's good exercise.
I think we should try to lift as many stakes as we can and then do a fold and roll really gently.
Okay. I didn't get any of these on this side.
Get any what?
I didn't take any stakes out on this side. Fold again?
Yep.
So definitely we did lose some straw within these, but honestly not really that much, so I'd like to just use these over if I can, as I said before. There's really no reason not to. Just getting rid of them is kind of a waste, especially since I had more work to do. You know, it's not quite as good as when you first put them down as far as the density of the straw, but this is going to be a whole lot better than not having anything on here for sure. And so far, this has turned out really, really good. I'll show you some close-ups. We definitely are on the thin side, but what you need to understand about a new seeding is that it should not look like a completely full lawn right away, because every single one of these little plants needs to tiller out, which means it's going to put a whole bunch more leaves on that plant. It's going to get thicker. So this is a bunch type grass and ryegrass. Every single plant is going to end up being about this big. So if you actually overdo it here, you're going to have too much overcrowding. Now it will sort of thin itself over time if it has to, but you can run into some issues with fungus because it's not drying out. There's no space in there. Every plant is crammed in there. And so this is not bad by any means. I'm really, really happy with this. And I think a very light overseed, just very, very light, because I did see some washout here in a few spots. I think that's going to be good, and then just let this thing mature. We'll start taking care of it, start fertilizing it with some liquids, and I'll show you all that as we get to that. But today, I am definitely happy with where this is at, no doubt about it. So this right here would be some of what I'm talking about with just thinner spots. You see, there's definitely plants in here. They will get thicker. They will start to get a lot bigger in here, but you have a decent amount of space in here where I don't see any plants at all, and I don't see any seed on the ground really waiting to do anything either. So like I said, light overseed on something like this, and I may end up putting down a light top dressing on it too, but I think first what I'm going to do is just get a little seed in here, get the water going, get this grass here that's already here maturing, and see where I'm at. Now in a few days, if I notice that this stuff is just drying out too easily, then I will probably do a top dressing. Believe it or not, it's about time to mow this, but I want to check this reel. Haven't checked it in a while to see if it's cutting clean. Looks like maybe just a slight tighten on this side. Not too much though. Yeah, just a little tighter on that side. So it says in the manual to tighten the blades, you need to loosen this front one and tighten this back one. Now these should be really, really small adjustments, so you don't need to go very far. that. Let's see where we're at. All right, that was all it needed. Like I said, very small adjustments. I'm gonna spray some lubricant on here so that this should spin a little easier. So I'm actually getting close here to a first mow, and you might say this is way too early to do a first mow on brand new grass. But if you want to mow your grass low, then you have to start cutting it low from the beginning. Or at least that's really the best way to train it from the start, so you don't train it to get higher and then you start chopping it down and trying to get it lower, because it will take some time to transition to that. The easiest thing to do if you want to mow it lower is just start in on it pretty close to right away. And like I said today, I've got some that are around 2 inches or so, some that are less than that right now. So I think tomorrow it's supposed to be about 80 degrees. I might get through tomorrow, and then it's supposed to cool down a bit before another warm up. So I might just give it through tomorrow before I mow it, then mow right before that cool down. And then you're gonna have to keep up with that mowing pretty consistently here to try to train it to get lower, send out all of those new shoots off the plant at a lower height, instead of having it so tall and then, like I said, trying to train it back down. So the easiest way for me that I've found to do this is to use a manual reel mower first. The reason that I think it's easier is you get a very clean cut off of that, but also you can pick it up at the end of your turns. You don't have any wheels on there that are turning around in the corners or anything like that. So it's very light and easy to use. Now this is 5,000 square feet, so it will take me a little bit of work to do it, but you get a nice clean cut out of it, and it just doesn't tear up your new grass quite as much as if you put a machine on here.